My dad actually gave me some great advice when I moved to Colorado to embark on this journey. And he said, make yourself invaluable. Get in there and figure out all of the rules and the regulations and just go for it. And I did exactly that.
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions.
Welcome back to Women We Should Know, where podcast after podcast, we bring you the voices, the faces, the stories of women who are coloring outside of the lines, challenging the status quo by refusing to climb into boxes created by someone else. Women who are fierce, courageous, and carving paths so that they and the women who want to follow all have expanded areas of life in which they can play. And the woman I'm going to introduce to you today is just such a woman. Kady Cravens has worked in almost every position in the cannabis industry, starting out as a janitor. Oh yes, this is one of those janitors to great success stories. Starting out as a janitor for a cultivation assistant and quickly moving up to cultivation assistant, trimmer, harvest manager, packaging manager, and transfer coordinator before becoming the operations compliance director. Now, I don't know what a lot of those things are. Maybe you don't either, but we'll find out. So just hang in there with us. She's also worked as a bud tender, front desk manager, inventory manager, and operations compliance director for medical and retail stores. Her knowledge in compliance and day-to-day procedures allowed her to become one of the top 4 directors of Colorado Management Holdings, which produces the national brand Willie's Reserve. I believe that's a reference to Willie Nelson. Kady also worked under the guidance of one of the top compliance officers in the cannabis industry for several years before deciding to start an act compliant and buildmysop.com. Yes, she did that. It is an easy-to-use software that makes handling employee training and standard operating procedures a breeze. Since starting, I don't know if it's ACT or ACT. We'll find out which one because I could be saying it wrong. Anyway, ACT compliant, Kady has been able to help and assist many startups and existing companies with their compliance and operating procedures. Now, I know one of the things that's not on her bio that I just read to you, I didn't notice this before, but she is a groundbreaker. She walked right into the middle of the boys' club and said, no, I'm not leaving. I'm here to stay. Get used to it. So we are really proud and honored to have her on the show for all of you today. Hello, Kady.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are welcome. You are just no shrinking violet, are you?
I just can't help myself.
That's what all fierce women say. We just have to love it. We just have to love that. That's what all fierce women say. I have a little tradition, little fun tradition. At the beginning of every podcast, I invite my guest to share with the audience something that's not in your bio that you would be willing to share.
Let's see. I'm a professional singer.
Oh, tell.
I actually did release an album in 2015. raised all the money myself, hired real actual musicians because I wanted just the real energy of music and those vibrations on there, and compiled that and walked away with the New Mexico Music Award Best Vocal Performance Award, I guess. So that's something I have in my back pocket.
That's amazing. What genre?
It's like jazz, bluesy, folksy kind of stuff.
Jazz and blues. There's nothing better. We'll be talking more about that after the show. I'll probably need to get at least one, a recording or download or something.
Yeah.
Janitor to creating a groundbreaking SOP.
And a lot of years put into it and a lot of steps in between the two. So yeah, starting off as a janitor, this was, before kids. So I was available and, hungry to
Sure.
really immerse myself in this brand new emerging cannabis industry.
Mhm.
And my dad actually gave me some great advice when I moved to Colorado to embark on this journey. And he said, make yourself invaluable. Get in there and figure out all of the rules and the regulations and just go for it. And I did exactly that.
So he was clearly supportive.
Oh yeah. Yes.
There is nothing when you're young and hungry and starting out, there's nothing that can replace a supportive parent.
Both of my parents are extremely supportive.
That's brilliant.
Always encouraged us to follow our dreams or, pursue our passions. So I'm very, very blessed in that.
You are blessed, and I bet now your kids are blessed likewise, but I'm interrupting your story. So you came to Colorado with your dad's great advice in your pocket.
I did. And it's a hard industry to get into, especially in 2014 when medical was just converting into adult use. It wasn't what you knew because nobody knew anything.
Right.
But it was who you knew. So I had a girlfriend whose boyfriend at the time was running a cultivation facility. And so he let me come in and work. And I really went above and beyond in my roles there. And they started to trust me with more and more responsibilities. We brought on a compliance specialist and she took me under her wing and we got along great. She's still one of my best friends to this day. And I learned a lot. And I started working alongside her, not only in my facility and the 4 licenses that I was overseeing. Within 6 months, by the way, I was being introduced as this is Kady. She runs my grow and dispensary. I often joke that every grow needs a grow mom. And I just became that. So made sure, all the things were followed so we could secure our jobs, basically.
Okay, now I'm going to slow you down just a little bit.
Yeah.
I know growers and what a grow is, and not all of our listeners do.
Oh,
so for the uninitiated, Kady, you get to give not just your story, but some educational aspects today.
Sure. I love educating people about cannabis, one of my favorite things to advocate for. So there are usually 4 facets in the cannabis industry. The state divides them that way, requires licensing and different things for each facility type. And so we look at them as 4 different facilities. There's cultivation, where the cannabis is grown. There's manufacturing, where it's processed, maybe making edibles or tinctures or topicals, anything like that. People also like to consume it as a concentrate. Then there is transportation and delivery. So legally taking product from one place to another, business to business, or in California, they do delivery services to individuals. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of regulations around all of this. And then the last but not least is retail. So either the medical retail side or adult use retail side. And I've been lucky enough and busy enough to have worked in all 4 of those settings.
There is never anyone as indispensable to any company as the person who has worked in every department.
Yep, you definitely get to realize the pain points, and I think it makes you a lot stronger because you know what those other departments are struggling with too.
Yes.
And how to best marry both of your guys's, work flow in order to get to that destination, and how to best support one another.
Absolutely. And from Entrepreneur to Forbes magazine to Harvard Business Review, the big secret that women have always known is out. Women are naturals at that. Women have higher sense of empathy. It's biological. It's not opinion. And so we can identify those pain points and help to soothe that better. So how brilliant for the entire industry there in your part of Colorado that they have you there with all that skill. Now, again, for the uninitiated, why is it important? Why is cannabis important? Why is it important to have gummies and tinctures and all of the different edibles, the different styles and applications? But why is this important?
For me personally, it helps me with a lot of different things. So I have cervical dystonia. It's a great tool to help me manage that pain that comes along with it. I can't even take a pain medication. It just makes me go into hyperemesis pretty much. It makes me very sick and nauseous. Not enjoyable for me at all. So cannabis is a great, resource outside of that doesn't make me sick. Not to mention I like the effects it has on me. So there's so many health benefits to it. It's also something that brings people together. I'd much rather deal with a stoned person than a drunk person. So there's so many things that cannabis can do for so many different ailments that people are struggling with. And now that it's legal in many of these states, there's a lot of universities that can now actually verify this with science. And we have to be really careful with our words about, any health claims or anything that we talk about with cannabis when selling the product. But
I'm sure you do, but I don't have to be careful because I can tell you who are out there in listener land, I don't know anyone personally. I don't know anyone who's had a mother or a father. And of course, at my age, mothers and fathers are in their mid-80s, or a lot of other individuals who have had any kind of cancer or chemo treatment in the last dozen years, who their doctors did not prescribe them some type of cannabis support for nausea, for the pain, especially for the nausea.
Oh, I mean, so many things. The, Parkinson's, seeing somebody struggling and then within seconds of consuming, watching their body be able to rest,
relax.
I mean,
yes.
It brings me joy seeing that they get just a little bit of peace. These children who are suffering hundreds of seizures a day. My friend Danny Billings is a hemp cultivator, and she has a company called Nature's Root, and she's donated over, I think, $1 million worth of medicine to families in need. I'm really, really proud of her for the work that she's done in the space.
That is a glorious thing. That's a glorious thing. What's the name of her company again?
Nature's Root.
Nature's Root. We're just going to give her that extra shout out because the woman who's out there doing that for kids and their families deserves it. So
she deserves it. She was one of the first legal hemp farmers when the prohibition ended in 2014. She was one of 2 license holders in the state of Colorado. And so she was really a pioneer, and with all of that, laying down that foundation has created so much opportunity for all of us. I mean, I wouldn't be here without, what our founders and the cannabis space have done.
It doesn't matter where you are in life. Without the founders, you wouldn't be where you are.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's honorable.
Yeah.
To pay them.
Absolutely. So I have so much passion around the plant, and in its immature state, it was the Wild West.
I know.
A lot of operators have what I refer to as basement mentality. They're so used to working undercover in the basement around the law that was very hard for them to adjust to coming into a legal space. And so it took, but the industry is maturing, and I've seen a lot of progress in the last 8 or 9 years in that. But at the very beginning, a lot of the facilities were it's, a little crazy. So, so having someone come in with, a compliance background, which I did not have before I got into cannabis, but
No, you were a janitor.
I was a janitor. I did a lot of other things before that. But we needed that. We needed to bring that professionalism to the space.
Yeah, unquestionably.
Yeah. And the more responsible practices that we can display, the more that we can combat this horrible stigma that's been put on cannabis and hemp, the more power we give the plant. And the more power we give the plant, the more accessible we make it to the humans.
Right. Well, we won't get me started on the history of the demonization.
Nope. That's a whole other session.
Yeah. Okay. So is Colorado still the predominant state for growing compliant cannabis and turning it into the various different products that it can produce?
So Colorado is the state with the most history, experience, and one of the states that I've seen with the highest standards and regulations. With that said, California probably has the largest market, although legally and in a regulatory perspective, it's a mess. It's a mess over there. And then Michigan actually.
Why is it a mess?
Oh my gosh. They've done a horrible job at supporting the industry and educating people on how to follow the rules. And, every single municipality out there wants to do their own thing.
Oh, so there's no universal state application of compliance or law or regulation.
There is, but the municipal always overrides that.
I see.
And it's really hard for operators, especially when they're wanting to open up in different cities.
So does that affect the quality of the product, and particularly the product that is being purchased for very specific medical purposes?
So I think it depends on the integrity of the cultivator, what they're willing to, treat the plant with and basically expose the consumers to, right? So that's why all this testing, but me as a consumer, I appreciate things going through an E. coli and a mold test. And then you think about it from a medical perspective. And if that's your grandmother who has, an ailment,
Parkinson's or
anything
cancer,
like that, right? You want that to be safe. So I understand a lot of the regulations and that they're put in place to keep us safe, right? That's why they have to start dosing edibles into certain milligrams so people didn't overconsume.
Right.
So, because you can, and cannabis isn't for everybody. It's not. Some people are allergic to it. Some people get paranoid from it. From a psychological standpoint, it's not for everybody. And that's why it's important to consume safely and, keep an eye out for your dosage. If you don't have a tolerance to cannabis, not consuming it with other things like alcohol, it can all make for a very poor experience.
Right. Well,
so
you don't take antihistamines with alcohol, so
yeah,
go figure.
Exactly. So they're just, it doesn't, but once you have a tolerance, I've consumed both alcohol and cannabis many times and been just fine. But people who've never done it before, drinking and then trying, smoking for the first time, I would not recommend it while drinking. So, so what it's done in California though, is it's forced the operators to participate in the black market.
That's never good.
So now they're not going through these testing things. And there's a lot of operators out there who are not supporting their employees in the way that they deserve.
Well, you're always going to have opportunistic people where there are loopholes.
Mhm.
they can fit into. Which other states are now legally producing and marketing the cannabis products?
Let's see here. So medical or adult use?
How about either?
So where it's decriminalized would be New Mexico just released this year, New Jersey, New York, those are all big markets. Michigan a couple of years ago. Michigan's actually the second largest market.
Hmm.
And so Arizona is now legal.
Now, is
California,
this medical or adult use or both?
this is legal for adult recreation,
Okay,
which usually they're medical before they become adult.
okay. So all of these states also, if you are in these states and you have a medical situation, you could ask your physician, give me a prescription. If
Yes, and usually
if it's
the benefit
appropriate.
there is going to be the pricing and the
Yes.
tax,
Mhm.
right? And there's a lot of amazing advocates who are still fighting a lot of fights for the medical consumer to
Mhm.
keep their medicine in an affordable price range.
Absolutely. Well, that's something we need across the board from pharmaceutical companies on down. Yes,
Absolutely.
but I'm glad to hear there are advocates.
But I think there's more states with medical or adult use now than there aren't. So I think there's only like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like maybe only 12 states that are fully illegal.
Wonderful. I could
I
get,
think once Texas goes, we're going to be good federally. Everyone just needs to get on the bandwagon.
there we go. There we go. So janitor to creating SOP. What is an SOP?
So a standard operating procedure is a guideline that defines a process. And they can be beneficial for so many reasons. They can help your company create accountability. A lot of employees are begging for structure.
Mhm.
And you're really doing your employees a disservice when you don't provide them the tools they need to excel at their highest level.
Mhm.
Most people want to do well. Most people want to grow. Most people want to excel.
Yes.
And it's your job as a business owner to support them in that growth.
And it is to your benefit and your bottom line.
Absolutely. And, I'm all about vibrations.
Mhm.
And I want to always, I guess, sit on the highest vibration that I can. That's where I want to live. And so for
Right.
me as a business owner, I want to be a positive influence
Mhm.
in my employees' lives. I want them to be excited when their boss calls. I want to tell them how much I value and appreciate their work. Just yesterday, my customer development director is an amazing woman. She's awesome with our customers. There's nothing that SOPs are the least sexy side of cannabis or really any business. But we all talk about them with so much passion because we really understand how beneficial they can be for your company. And so just yesterday, she sent an email out to our customers and I texted her and I just said, I smile every time I read the way that you communicate with our clients. Thank you for bringing that passion and support and excitement to them when you're talking about SOPs.
Which brings me to ask you, because that's a very woman thing to do, a very positive woman thing to do. That particular languages, you might get a good job with a thumbs up in a different situation. What would you say to women about moving their way up in a male-dominated arena?
Oh, patience is key. Stand your ground.
And what does that mean?
That means that you establish your value.
Exactly.
Nobody else gets to do that for you. And if they don't recognize that or meet you at that level, walk away. There are plenty of opportunities out there.
Mhm.
And when you don't find somebody who recognizes your value, stand your ground. And if you can't make any changes, walk away and go find another opportunity or create something for yourself. Because we can do anything. I mean, I literally started this whole company with zero funding and just the belief in my heart that I knew from personal experience, this was a pain point from the dozens of facilities that I walked into and consulted with. And I knew I had to figure out a solution because I wasn't the only person feeling that pain. And so I recognized an opportunity. And then I worked for 8 years and didn't stop talking about that vision until it came to fruition. And now I'm here with an actual service and content and helping, dozens
clients.
Helping dozens of facilities in 10 different states. And we've only been really launched fully now for about a year.
That is great. And I'm glad you said 10 different states. The question I was just getting ready to ask you is based on the different legislations or lack thereof in other states, is it applicable across various different state lines?
So we offer templates that we've written to the highest standards we've seen within the industry. In fact, a lot of my clients will be like, oh, we're not that serious. Well, you will be, especially when it becomes federally legal. Also, this is just good business practice from a risk mitigation standpoint, from homogenized products, productivity. I mean, it's all money. We're saving money with these processes, right? And identifying what those look like and creating the right communication lines so our employees are comfortable. Like we all want to be happy at work. So we offer that. And then we also offer initial customization. So it all comes down to your local regulations. And local will always override state. And so when we do go into facilities that are maybe in multiple states, we might have to do 3 or 4 customization projects for them because we're going to have to go in and, get familiar with all the regulations for that state and make sure that all of
someplace like California, you'd have to maybe do dozens because each municipality.
Even in New Mexico, I mean, the Los Lunas municipality is going to be different than Albuquerque. Even in Colorado, I don't think they allowed adult use in Colorado Springs for years. Even though it was the state was
The rest
legal.
of the state.
But there's also dry counties and alcohol still in Colorado. I think Sterling, you can't get a drink anywhere on a Sunday. I was very disappointed.
I just don't even. Okay, we'll skip that part because it does not compute in my brain.
It makes no sense. I don't get it either.
It doesn't compute.
It all
Okay.
comes down to the local regulation.
Are there any big growers now who are, you spoke of the one woman who was the groundbreaker and is now given $1 million worth of product to children with medical issues in their families. What is the percentage of females now as opposed to when you started and there was you?
I think it also depends on the facility type you're in. I see more males in cultivation and manufacturing settings, although I do know that females are leading the way in the laboratories, especially the testing facilities. So that's exciting to see.
That's exciting.
And then in dispensaries, I see a lot more females than I see males. So,
but that's more sales position, right?
Yeah.
And that's traditional.
Or inventory management. We're great at that. We're great at organizing and making sense of, some of these inventory management on the retail side is the biggest struggle I see within the entire industry because every single product has its own production batch. And from seed to sale, it has to be tracked. So you could have 5 chocolate bars and each one of those could be from a different production batch, which means they have to be identified and sold through a certain package separately. It can get very muddy very quickly.
I can see where that is so. Well, inventory control, shrink, and turnover. The 3 banes of every business person who deals in marketing a product of any type.
And turnover is high in this industry.
That was what I was just getting ready to ask.
Very high.
it is high. And is it high across the board in terms of all the different departments and skill sets? Or are there key areas where it is more severe?
I would say across the board. I see bud tenders circulate in and out pretty quickly.
And
But that is someone who dispenses the cannabis and will sell it to you. Usually someone who has a lot of knowledge about the product that can help you choose something that's going to fit whatever you're trying to accomplish with consuming.
And so there's much higher turnover with them.
Yes. And then a lot of the people I've seen is, in director positions or C-suite, they're overworked and they're underpaid. I myself have worn many, many hats, as a compliance director. I remember I left one company and it took them 3 people to replace me.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally doing the job of 3 people.
Well, now that's another statement that is not uncommon among women.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things that we must start cautioning ourselves and other women about, to collectively not play that game anymore.
Yeah. And standing your ground, right? Knowing your boundaries. I had somebody ask me, hey, will you come in this weekend and sticker stuff? I was a director. Also, I grew up in a print shop. I don't want to stuff an envelope or sticker anything ever again in my life. And I said, no, I've already worked 60 hours this week, and that is outside of my job description.
Right.
And he's like, well, I'm the owner and I'm going to be here. And I was like, and you probably make 4 times the amount that I do. So good on you. When my parents owned a print shop and they had the biggest job that came in every year that was 1 million clicks, they had an air mattress and they slept there for a week straight, and they would get up in the middle of the night every time the printer went off to refill it with paper or ink or whatever it needed. They didn't ask their staff to do that. They showed up and they did it, and they reaped the benefits of it as well.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. What is the next big horizon for, well, let's start with you.
So right now I am focused on, and I'm passionate and I'm excited on growing buildmysop.com. I want to build a scalable enterprise. I want to focus on hemp and cannabis heavily for the next 5 years, but there are so many other industries that need a service like this. Small to medium-sized businesses, people with passion, right? You're a baker and you have a dream to open your own bakery, but you don't know what that looks like as a business. Build My SOP and the templates that we provide kind of gives you that blueprint to that operation. And so we're now filling up their toolbox with all the knowledge that they need so they can actually kind of see it in a day-to-day setting. Okay, this is how I hire an employee. This is how I write up an employee. This is how I, fire an employee. This is how I have to maintain my safety data sheet book. Like, there's just things you don't know until you know. And so we've tried to put all of that content together in a very digestible format. And I think we've accomplished that to give people the stepping off point they need to succeed in their passion and focus on what they came here to do, which was bake, right?
That is such a clear, succinct description of an SOP.
It's funny, a lot of people will be like, I've never seen someone get so excited about SOPs. And I'm like, that's because I know the power behind them. And I know your employees want this. Yes. And not only can we protect ourselves with them as owner operators and hold our employees accountable and really start to be able to prove when something is an employee error, but now our employees can hold us accountable too as owners and operators. And I think that's important.
And you would not find a large corporation without an SOP.
No, well,
or even a large independent business. That's one of the tools they used to get there.
Exactly.
So that's worth considering when you are deciding whether or not to spend money to have a SOP implemented as part of your system.
If you're planning on scaling, 100%. Also, don't rely on anybody, one person, to carry knowledge that's a big part of your business functioning.
That's right.
Right? You don't need just one grower in the facility who knows all the recipes up here. People, I hate to say it like this, people die. Things happen, and
People fall in love and move to the other side of the world.
exactly. So
It happens.
it's just, and then especially if you're wanting to scale your business, or maybe someone's going to acquire it, without SOPs in place, they're just going to be buying a building with, everybody has the best intentions. Oh, I'll get to that. I'll write that. But what they don't understand is the regulations start the day that your business opens for you. And a lot of these states require SOPs be in place.
Love that you're passionate about it. It really is. Having come way back in the 80s, having been in senior management in oil and gas, I understand how important this is.
Another market I'm looking to get into.
And you just like those male-dominated industries, don't you?
You know what? I feel fine in that environment.
I do too.
I can sit down in a room with 20 businessmen twice my age, and I feel like I belong there.
Yeah. And some of the really interesting businesses are over there. So why not? What is the next big horizon for cannabis?
It's moving quickly. A lot of states onboarded this year with medical and adult use. So I think it's so exciting to see all these people creating opportunities for themselves and their communities. I think the whole industry in itself is gonna grow. And I think federalization is on the horizon. I guess federal legalization would be kind of what's next for cannabis. And then maybe being able to do international sales between countries too. I have a friend who he's importing amazing exotic fruits from Colombia all the way here, and then infusing fruit drinks and things with CBD. And it'd be so much easier if he could just do all of that in Colombia and distribute it, throughout the world.
Of course it would. Of course.
So eventually butcher, baker, candlestick maker, whatever you are, we've got an SOP for that. So we've onboarded a preschool. So early education, they don't really have any tools in place like this. And they have a lot of regulation. From what I've heard from the schools we're working with, they haven't seen something like what we provide. We're working with associations, running an association.
Sounds to me like where your SOP rich audiences are the industries that are the most highly regulated.
Yep, absolutely. Those where people really understand the value, and from a risk mitigation standpoint are required to have our services, especially for banks. I have banks that we work with that do yearly audits of your SOPs and employee training.
Congratulations, Kady, on developing not just a brilliant SOP for your industry, but having the vision to make it scalable and to already be approaching these other highly regulated industries. Is there some star, some planet, some great brass ring outside of this that you have not yet quite gotten your hand around, but it's always been there, kind of flickering in your future, something that you still intend to tackle in this lifetime? Because you're young, you've got lots of time.
Yeah, I am. I've got, this is only one of the chapters.
Yes.
I'm a yoga teacher. At some point, I'd love to just own my own studio and teach, and then sing some.
So you want to have this big, high-powered business, make it scalable, and then be able to create a peaceful life for yourself. That is not a bad goal. That is a really lovely goal.
And I want to make myself available for my daughter as she's growing. I don't want to be at work all the time. I don't want to put all of this passion into helping somebody else buy a house on the beach. I want that house.
That's right. How old is your
And
daughter?
so she's 3.
Oh, yes, about 3 or 4 more years. She'll be ready for that house on the beach.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
I was ready about 3 or 4 years ago, but yeah. No, she's wonderful, but I really want to be available to her as she's growing up, especially in those middle school and high school years. I think that's, yes, they're independent. They can do
Crucial.
things for themselves, but it's crucial that you still oversee what they're doing, who they're talking to. You still need to be that support system and very much involved in their life at that age.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on. This has been extremely educational and deeply inspiring. That's a huge story and inspiring for other women, I'm sure.
Well, I hope to be an inspiration, and I just want to encourage women to get out there and do it.
Get out there.
Keep talking about it. Keep rolling. Keep pressing forward. Don't let anybody tell you that something won't work or that you're not good at it. If you understand your value, then stand behind that.
Right on, sister. I'm with you. I've been preaching that sermon for a long, long time. Thank you for everything you're doing for business. Thank you for everything you're doing for women. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was a joy.
Absolutely. So, all of you out there, I'm going to do for you what I always do for you. I love doing this. I'm going to put all of Kady's information that she wants you to have, all of her contact or her URL, whatever she wants you to have. I will put it there on the program notes. So you'll go there to find it, like, subscribe, share, and leave Kady a note. Leave her a message. What is it you'd like to say? And we'll pass it on to her. I trust that you learned something new today. Every day when we learn something new is worthwhile. And as you go forward, I encourage you to remember you are stronger and wiser than you know.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.